is now starting.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for your patience there as we got going here. Thank you for joining us for this month's edition of the Pixelmill webinars and our offering of site designs and site scripts templating for modern superheroes. As usual, my name is Michael Wells. I'm the Partnerships and Community Manager here at Pixelmill. If you haven't joined us before, thanks for joining us for the first time. We're happy to have you. If you've been here before, welcome back. We're happy to have you as well. The usual stuff you guys are used to. As you can see, we're trying our, not, it's not really trying, we're doing our video thing again. So in a second, our speaker will pop up and you'll be able to see his bright, shiny face. Feel free to draw on your screen, but remember, you have to clean it up afterward. If you have any questions or comments, please put those in the questions or chat tabs that should be attached to this. I'll be monitoring these as we go out or as we go on through this. So throw your questions up there. We'll get those to the speaker. If we're not able to get to those in a timely manner, when you put those in there, there is a 15-minute Q&A at the end. So we'll make sure we get to those questions then as well. For anybody who is more socially minded, feel free to ask your questions on Twitter, hashtag PixelmillWebinars or @PixelmillTeam. That's where we'll be. All right, that's enough for me. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to present our speaker this month. He is a Microsoft MVP and a dear friend to the Pixelmill family, our dear friend, Ryan Schouten. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure you can see me, hopefully.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about a fairly new piece of functionality, as in this has been released not too long ago. It's been within the last month. And we're going to be talking about site designs and site scripts and why we really need to care about them. Start out a little bit about me, maybe. There we go. My name is Ryan Schouten, as was mentioned. I am the president of the Utah SharePoint user group, also Microsoft MVP. Been working with SharePoint for over 10 years, almost 11 years now. Actually, it's been over 11. So it's been a little while. Before that, I'm primarily a dev, so yeah, don't shoot me. As I'm sure a lot of the people on these webinars are, so we're all in good company. Also recently MVP, so I'm really excited about that. A little bit of the company I work for. I work for a company that provides Office 365 and SharePoint services, but we're not really here to talk about that today. What we're here to talk about is we're here to talk about site design. So starting out, I figured we'd start out with what the problem is, why we need site designs. Now, the biggest thing that we run into is that with the modern change, so the modern sites, the modern infrastructure that Microsoft is setting up with the SharePoint framework, all those sort of things, the classic templating process doesn't work anymore. I don't know if you've tried, but if you try and add a SharePoint framework project, so you actually add it to the site, you can no longer save that site as a template. So not just the publishing site, we have problems saving as a template. It's the option is there, but it'll yell at you and say, hey, you've got an app that's been added to the site that doesn't allow it to be saved as a template. So that kind of creates a problem. And we also, like I said, we get some new challenges. We have some different infrastructure, some different designs, a different layout on things, how things are set up. So Microsoft realized, hey, and a lot of it because of us, the community, we've been asking, hey, how do we get this? We need to be able to do some templating. We have these new site templates you've given us, but we need to be able to do our own things and set up our own processes. So Microsoft came out with site designs. Now, a site design allows us to, when you're creating a site, you have the option to be able to select what design you want in place. Now, the site design by itself is really nothing more than just an indicator in a dropdown. It does not necessarily do anything. In order for a site design to be helpful, it needs one or more site scripts. So we can create our site design and then we associate our scripts with it. Now, okay, we can have one or more, we can deal with these sort of things. There is a limitation though. Our script can have a maximum, or our site design can have a maximum of 30 actions. So if you have 2 scripts assigned to one site design, then you need to make sure that both of those scripts don't exceed the 30 actions. Otherwise, you'll run into some problems and things won't get applied. Also, what we have at the moment is in order to create these, they have to be done through either PowerShell or through the REST APIs. So not ideal for most users at the moment. For us devs, it's not too big a problem, but it is something we have to keep in mind. At the moment, we have 2 modern sites, types. So we have our modern site templates. So we have the communication site and we have our modern team sites. Both of those allow us to be able to select it. When we go and say, hey, I want to create a new site, we have a choice between a team site and a communication site. Now with site designs, we also have another option. So we can select whether we want a team site or communication site. We also get a drop-down that allows us to specify a design. So we have a few that come out of the box, and we'll look at some of those options. But as we can see here on the right, if we choose a communication site, they've given us 3 different options. Can't really see it in the drop-down, but we'll look at a minute. We have a topic, we have news, we have a few different options. Also, if we do a team site out of the box, we have 1. So only 1 site design for a modern team site. So this really comes in handy for us. One thing we also need to keep in mind is that site designs currently only work in modern sites. So if you're trying to use these as a across-the-board solution and you have a mix of classic and modern sites, this isn't going to cut it. So you'd have to come up with a couple solutions, because they really don't have a good solution to be able to handle that across sites. Also, the cool thing is that these site designs and scripts can be run on an existing site. So say, for example, you have an existing site and you now want it to have some of those features that are granted by that site design. With PowerShell, you can go through and run and apply those. Now, like I said, the site script is the biggest piece of what's going to be happening, what our site design is actually going to be doing. And really, a site design is nothing more than a set of actions that need to be performed. One of the things the cool things we can do as well is we can kind of group and compartmentalize these. Our site scripts can be associated to 1 or more site designs. So if we're going to set up a common piece of functionality, say we have a common list that could be used across a bunch of different site designs, we can set up 1 script and then add that script to multiple designs, so we don't have to try and manage it, maintain it in all those different places. Yet again, this is very developer centric. So our site designs themselves are set up as a JSON file. It is what it is. Now, I'm sure there'll be some people in the community, and I'm pretty sure Microsoft will probably come up with a simpler UI for creating these at some point in time, but at the moment, we have to create them, and yet again, they have to be added to our tenant through PowerShell or through the REST APIs. Also, at the moment, we have a limited set of actions that we can perform. We can create a list and then do actions within that list. So we can set a title, we can set the description, we can add columns, we can add custom renderers from our SharePoint framework extensions. We can do all those sort of things. We can apply a theme. Now, one of the things is I realized found out as I was preparing for this, if we're going to be applying a theme, we cannot apply any of the out-of-the-box themes. So if you go into your modern site and look at you click on the option to change the look, and you say, oh, I like that theme, I want to use it. Well, you can't. With the site scripts, we can only apply a custom theme that we've created. All the out-of-the-box ones don't work. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's just one of the limitations we have in place at the moment. Also, we can set the site's logo if we need to. We can also add navigation items. Now, navigation items, we're talking about the left-hand nav. So we have that ability. Also, the coolest one that gets us the most functionality is we can also trigger a flow, a Microsoft flow. So if we think about it, we've had some different things we've talked about in these webinars before. We've talked about being able to apply some different features and do some things with a flow. One of the coolest things we can get, and we'll talk about in a minute, is we can also extend our template using some different functionality that we can do with flow. And then one of the more recent additions to the action set is one of our actions as well can be to join the site that just got created to a hub. So we don't have to rely on the user to remember to go say, hey, this is a department site, I want to go add it to the hub. So we have that option.
Hey,
also,
Ryan, we had a couple
yes.
questions come in on just the stuff you're talking about. So starting at the top from our dear friend Greg Frick. Since SPO PowerShell requires a connection to tenantadmin.sharepoint.com, can something similar be accomplished by site collection admins using Pnp Powershell, since this allows site collection admins to connect to their site collection?
At the moment, I would say I don't know for sure, but from what I've seen of the APIs, probably not. The setting up of a site design and a site script is more, it's an admin action. It's not something that a site collection admin can do. Same setup as with a hub. In setting up a hub inside SharePoint, it is currently an admin action. So whether they're going to change that in the future, we don't know. But at the moment, I believe it's just for the admins only. So you have to be I believe you have to be a SharePoint admin in order to be able to create site designs and the site scripts.
Excellent. And then just one other quick little question from a friend of ours, Kunal Sharma. Thank you for sending this question in. Comm sites have top nav links. Do the nav items apply to that?
That is a good question. When we get into this, I'll try to remember to look in, because we have a schema that'll tell us what actions we can perform. And I don't remember, I haven't played with the navigation items yet, but I don't remember seeing one for specifying whether it's left or top. But we can go ahead, definitely go ahead and look at that one.
Great. And that was it. Back to you, sir.
Groovy. All right. Now, one of the other things is, like I said, we can run these scripts again if we want to run it at a later time. We need to bring a site back in sync, whatever. And as such, these site scripts are non-destructive. So it'll go out and check. If we tell it to create a list, it'll make sure that the list exists. And if it does, it makes sure it has the columns that we're specifying. So it kind of works out pretty nice that way. And then after we create our site, the first user to go in, which is probably gonna be the person creating it, will see the box that we have over on the right here. They'll see the flyout from the right side. It says, okay, here are the actions we're doing, and then all the status. When it's done, they can click on the view updated site, which will reload their page, and we have all those sort of things. Now, one of the cool things, if you've not been exposed to the patterns and practices provisioning engine, I highly recommend you go out and take a look at it. So with this, what we can do is our site script can launch a flow, which can then kick off an Azure function that can apply a template to our site. So as we said, at the moment, we are very limited in the actions that we can perform. Also, not just the actions, but the quantity. If we have a bunch of different steps, things we want to add, we're going to exceed that 30 action limit pretty easily. But if we now sub that out, launch a queue inside Azure, then this way we can perform whatever we need to get the site up and running. Granted, there may be some delay, so they have many things come in after the fact, but the cool part is we can create different things that we want. We can apply, we can push sites out, we can make sure we have files, we have the functionality to be able to do what we need to. So basically, as we can see on here, we have our SharePoint Online site. So when the site gets created, our site script can say, hey, go kick off this Microsoft flow. Our flow can then go add in the storage queue, and we want to do it this way so that way we're not doing a binding call that has to sit and wait for it. By adding it to the storage queue, it can say, okay, our flow can say, okay, I'm done. And then the SharePoint and the user has their site back and they can start working with it. And then our Azure function will pick up from that storage queue and start processing and apply whatever functions we need to be able to set up or finish the configuration of our site. And it sets everything back and they're good to go. Like I said, the one drawback to this is if they try and set it up, the flow, anything we're running this way, will come in after the fact. So if your users go into the site, they may not see everything they're expecting, and it may pop up on them on a subsequent load of the page. Now, a big problem with this may be some training that we have to keep our users aware of. Now, one of the cool things as well, our site scripts allow us to be able to, for lack of a better term, security trim who has access to our site designs. So we can set up the site design so it only appears to certain people or groups. Now, if we go into Microsoft's documentation, they do list out, says, hey, these are the groups that they have to be an Office 365 email-enabled distribution list, I think is the term they end up using. So one thing to keep in mind if you get some weirdness, but if we're following the documentation, you should be good there. And so what will happen is if they don't have rights to view it, then it's not going to show when they go to create a new site, which could be handy because you don't want somebody in manufacturing creating a site with the HR site design and then now joining it to HR. So there's a reason why we'd want to do this, but definitely something to keep in mind. All right, now, enough talk. Let's go take a look at this. Let's see how we go ahead and set one of these up. So if I go ahead and minimize this, go away message. Oh. So what we've got, oh, I didn't open that up. If we open up code, I set up a project just to keep this a little easier to manage, hopefully. Yep, good. It loaded the right one. So when we're creating these, we have some basic steps. And the easiest way, if we look at our PowerShell script here, this is going to be the easiest way for us to be able to remember the steps we need to go through. So the biggest thing is you need to have the SharePoint Online Management Shell installed. That's a requirement if you're going to be doing it through PowerShell. You could do it through the REST calls, but this way is a little easier and also easier to be able to demo. So if you don't have the latest, so if it's not been, you don't have the release that was released not too long ago, you're going to have to go uninstall it and reinstall the Online Management Shell so you get these new commandlets that we're going to need to use. Now, the first thing is with the way these are created, we have to create our site script first. So I have in here, I have a site script JSON file that we'll go look at, and I'm passing that over to the PowerShell command add-spo site script. So our content of the file gets passed in, and I'm giving it a name of superpixel script 3. And we'll run this again just to show you what it looks like, and we'll change the name up a bit. But that's this and the gist of it. Once we have our site script created, or scripts for that matter, we'll then need to create our site design. And the site design has a title, a template, an array of site scripts. So at the moment, I'm only applying one, but this can have more than one. We can also do a description to go along with that. Now, with the template, at the moment, since we only have 2 modern template type sites, we have only the 2. So 64 is going to be a modern team site. And if we want to do a communication site, we just need to put 68 in there for our site design. Now, if we switch over just to take a look at what's in this site script, it's just a standard JSON file that does include some schema. And then we have a property that has an array of actions. So we have our first action that we're going to do when this gets created, when a site gets created and we choose this design, is it's going to apply a theme. Okay, cool. And the theme we're going to do is custom dark theme. I figure I'll go dark just to make it obvious that we've changed it up instead of just doing a light little color change. The next action we have is we're going to create a list. And our list is just going to call, the title is going to be called Super Friends. And it's just going to be a generic list. Now within our creating list action, we can also do sub actions. And this is where we can start getting in some of the more things that give us a little more value. For example, we have the ability to set the description on our list. We don't have to just leave it as the default. We can have some fun. Also, we have the option we can add fields. Now, the type of fields that we can add at the moment is fairly limited. It's just the basic out-of-the-box fields. So we got text, number, note fields, yes, no, the basics that every SharePoint's had for years. So we don't have a whole lot, but we can add some different things in. So we're going to add in a couple different fields. So we have 2 text fields and we have a note field that we're going to be adding on. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be triggering a flow. Now, this flow really is fairly simple. This is not going through the full Pnp provisioning engine. This is just, it's going to go out. The flow will send an email to me saying, hey, this new site was created, which can be handy if we need to keep track of what sites are being created, or we can notify users, say, hey, this was created, without having to have a webhook to try and tie on to site creation. And then we also know that when this email goes out, everything's set up, we're good to go. All right, so if we go ahead and go back and look at this, if we go to our site design, let me come over here real quick. 1 second. Got the few bars in the way. Ah, there we go. Okay. And where's my? Interesting. All right, I need to go snag a password real quick. Give me 1 second here. Thought I had it, but I had to reboot for an updates. Yay.
You know, Ryan, while you're looking for that, we had a question come in.
Let's go ahead.
Where can we go to view an array of site design options? That's from our friend Joe McKee.
So the type of, so you want to know all the available site designs, or what the actions are that we can do in our site actions?
I think he's looking for the first option, is my understanding. But Joe, if you feel differently, please chime in. He says examples of designs. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
So some examples. Okay. So they have some of the out-of-the-box ones we can go look at. So if we go out, let's just go ahead and connect to my tenant here. We'll run this guy. Oh, it popped up in the background. All right, so let's go ahead and we can go out and do get-spo site designs. Oops, nope. Not that one. So if we run this command, this will list out, it's only showing one, interestingly. This should give us all of our site designs. Okay, so it is showing me two. Okay. So we can go ahead and deal with that. That'll show us some of the ones that are there. If you want to be able to see some examples, for the most part, really what you need to deal with are the scripts, because the designs themselves don't do much of anything. If we come back over here, so we can do SharePoint site design. I'll do this site action schema. There we go. So this is where you're going to want to spend a lot of your time. They do have some examples to get you started. If you go out to the docs.microsoft.com site for site designs, they have information on getting started, setting scope, seeing who can see it, all those sort of things. Now, if we go down here, so we have the option, we have our action of creating an SP list, which we can set title, description, add fields, delete fields, bunch of different options, set a custom field formatter, and within each one of those actions, they also give you an example of how to set it up. So we're pretty good that way. Yeah, so basically the question we had before about adding it to the top nav, it looks like at the moment, no. It only looks like they're giving us the ability to add the left nav, not the top nav. It would be a good thing to have to be able to do both, but without being able to do that with a site action, yet again, we could do a Pnp provisioning template that will then apply those actions if we need to. We continue down, we have our theme, set a site logo, and join a hub site, and trigger flow. And we also have the option for setting external sharing capability. Woo-hoo. So this gives you a lot of the things. We have also, for a list of all the PowerShell commandlets that you can run, if you need to go get a list of them, here we have all of the different PowerShell commandlets. That works for you, cool. If not, they also give us a reference to the REST API and all the different commands that you need to be able to work with site scripts. If you want to run with those and do it through a different mechanism, you do have that option as well. Also, as I mentioned, the ability to do a Pnp provisioning template as part of your flow, they actually have a nice walkthrough that gives you step-by-step how you set it up. So we're not going to go through it today, and there's a reason for that. The interesting thing is, I was preparing the demo for this. It was being rather finicky. I tried uploading a new homepage and found out that when you create a modern site, it automatically has the custom scripts ability turned off. No matter what your tenant says, if your tenant says, okay, allow it, all modern sites have that turned off by default. Well, the problem is if you're going to be uploading a custom ASPX page, which is what happens if you're loading a new homepage, then that's going to the key lower. So you're going to have to do some little more work, which finally got it working this morning, but something to keep in mind. If you're applying a page through a provisioning template and it doesn't work on a modern site, go check there. I see a face.
You see my face, my beautiful, shining, bald, bearded face. We have another question from our good friend Greg Frick. Is the top nav the same as the left nav on Comm sites? For example, if I nav to a library on a Comm site, I see the nav on the left. Is it the same as is it the same as the nav on the top? Is it the same as the nav on the top when on a page? There we go. I can read English, I swear.
That one, I honestly don't know. I know we got Eric on the phone. Eric, are you sure? Do you know on that one? I haven't personally tried to check to see if they are the same.
Let me think on that more and I'll get back to you.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
All right, so we do have this. We have this information. This is all out there for you, and they have some pretty good documentation. But let's go ahead and see what this looks like. So we have our site script. Let's go ahead and add. I'm going to add in a new script. We'll call this one SuperPixel Script 4. So when we run this command, it is going to go out, add our site script to the site, and then it'll give us back the information about it. So if I run this. All right, so we have our SuperPixel Script 4, and we have an ID. Now we need this ID in order to be able to create our site design. So we'll do this we'll call this one webinar. And instead of the old one that I was playing with, we're going to add this one there. So we add our the site script that we just added, and then we can go ahead and, for those of you who aren't familiar in Visual Studio Code, if you're in a PowerShell file, you can just highlight the code and hit F8, runs it. Really cool. All right, we have everything set up now. This also gives us, if you look at the information here, we have a few more things that I am not setting at the moment. First option that I'm not setting here is a preview image, and we'll look at where this comes into play. They'll give us a default image since we haven't specified one, but we can specify our own preview. So if they select our site design, they can verify that's what they're looking for. And also for ADA and accessibility, we can have an alternate text for screen readers. So we have that in place. Let's go take a look at it. So I'm in here. This is the SharePoint page, the SharePoint homepage. If I select, I want to create a new site. I can click on a communication site. And now we have the option to choose a design. So like I said before, our communication sites give us 3 site designs by default. So we have topic, showcase, and blank. If we go back and select our team site, by default, you're only going to have team site. And if we look underneath here, we have the description for it, and we have the preview image that was specified. So if I select one of mine, so we have our Super Pixel Friends webinar, we have the description I provided, demo, I know, not super descriptive. And then we have just an out-of-the-box image there for preview. So you can do whatever you want, snag your own screenshot, load it up, and you're good to go. So we're going to run with this guy. I'm going to come in here, and we're going to give this a name. We're going to say webinar, webinar demo. Okay, make sure our name's available. Super Pixel Mill Friends site. Okay, none of this is, at least this right section, none of this is really different. Thanks to site designs, it's more of the fact that we can choose our privacy settings, and then we'll click next. As soon as we click on next, this will go out, create our site, and ask us, hey, all right, who do you want to add into it? In my demo tenant, really, it's just my account, so I don't have too much. But as you can see, it comes back pretty quick. And then when we click finish, we'll be taken into the site. And then watch on the right here, we'll get our flyout saying, okay, our site script is initializing, and we can see it progressing, going through. Okay, we're at 66%, creating our super friends list. Wow, the UI is a little off. I got a machine on the side here that showed me my flow has already been triggered. Maybe my script is being a little slow. Interesting. All right, we'll give it just a minute here to go ahead and create, just in case. We'll just duplicate this tab. Okay, obviously that has not completed yet. Let's go take a look at our site contents. There it goes. Now it's applied. And as it says, it's done? No, not yet. Now we have our list. We can go ahead and open it. Yeah, looks like it's yet again one of those areas where this is still fairly new. So this is the first time I've ever had it do this to me while I'm preparing my demos. Gone through a few different iterations, recreating and all those sort of things. Apparently this guy is stuck. But I can show you that it did go out and it did actually send me an email. We have an email that pretty much from the flow just says, okay, the site was created. Nothing fancy, but it does show that the flow actually ran and I can pass information over to it. Let's go ahead and close this because I'm sure if we reload this, we now have our lovely, nasty black and green theme. Yay. All right, so now we can see everything's there. Our list has been created. We can go, actually I did open it here. We can go ahead and create our new item. Secret identity. Put that in there. Whatever. Okay, we can go ahead and click save. So all of that was created and done by the site script. Like I said, we can go in, we can create some more advanced things through the Pnp provisioning, and then we're off and running. And in reality, that's really all there is to it. So if we want to go in, change up our script, we can come in here. Let's go look at our PowerShell. We can also remove a site script and remove site designs. And we can also add in scripts to be able to, the design rights allow us to be able to specify who can see these different scripts. Now, at the moment, I only have my account, so kind of hard to demo, but we do have the option to be able to specify that. So if we come into here, because as I mentioned before, I believe they have a note. Principles, there we go. No, maybe it was on one of the other screens. When we're setting this up, we are limited to just Azure Active Directory enabled groups. So I believe that was here. Here we go. So as far as our scopes, we'll make sure. There we go. Specify scope or mail enabled security group. If we don't have one of those options, it's going to kick us out. It's going to complain and say, hey, sorry, you're out of luck here. So, and that's the basics of it. If we wanted to go through and create these options, we have a lot of power. But as we can see, this is what we need. For those of you who are interested as well, if you want to do your own theme, because this is one of those things you're probably going to run into, if we go out to dev.office.com/fabric, if we go to styles, they have a theme generator which allow us to be able to go through and pick the different options. So I pretty much went through and said, okay, we'll go with a nasty green, background body text color, we'll go white. And as you can see on the page, they kind of give you an indicator of what it's going to look like, and background will go black. And then we have the information, so we can take from here. Ooh, lovely, a lot of numbers. And we can copy the PowerShell option, paste it into our PowerShell script, and we're off and running. And then we also, like I said, we have some different information about what things will look like with our site. And come back to our add theme. We can take that theme information, paste it in here, and we're off and running. And to let it, yet again, this script actually comes from Microsoft and says, okay, here's how you can go add it. So we can go in, add that information. Once we've added a custom theme, it is now available to us as part of our site script. And we're good to go. Are there any questions at the moment? Cricket's chirping.
I'm just turning on to say no. No, there are not any questions at this time. I wanted to be consistent with my popping up for things concerning questions.
That's what kind of figures. Like he hadn't popped up yet, so maybe there aren't any questions. So
you're good.
That being said, so we have these different options. We can do some pretty cool things. Now, as I was showing, I do have a template in place. As part of our Pnp provisioning, we can specify, and I have the content to set the home page. There is the option, like I said, we have the problem of being able to specify, and I lost all my history. All right, where we can specify whether we want to enable our site to have custom scripts. If we don't, the Pnp provisioning is going to complain and yell at us if we're just trying to do this approach. Granted, we could run some different methods that apply those different areas to an existing page, but the default, okay, save site is it's get a provisioning template and then reapply it. It tries to create a whole page, which kind of causes some problems and kills it over. So if we want to go take a look at that, come back over here. High overview, maybe, there we go. So the first thing we need to do is we need to be able to set up now there are a couple different ways we can do this. Their documentation provides a nice way of being able to do it, that we're setting up an app with access to the tenant. Now, one of the things we have on here, we need to register an application. So if you've done any provider hosted applications or those sort of things inside SharePoint, this part is nothing new. Okay, we need to go create and register an app with SharePoint. The next step, though, is one of those ones that looks familiar, but we need to change it up a little bit. So we are going to the app inventory page, which is where we're applying the permissions. The difference is, though, is we need to remember, and I came across this while I was trying to set it up, is if you don't go to the admin side of SharePoint, it will yell at you if you try and specify that you want it to give it tenant permissions. If you're doing tenant permissions, you have to do it through the tenant, through the admin side. But other than that, it's fairly similar to what we had before. The next thing is we'll create an Azure storage queue. Now, with that, like we said, the reason we want to use a queue instead of just doing, because we could, in theory, do a straight call to an Azure function and be good. The drawback is if we have some time frames, like loading up some of the Pnp provisioning engine into an Azure function can be time consuming. So the Azure queue allows us to be able to say, okay, we're going to kick it off, and then our flow can continue and carry on, and we're not slowing up the creation of the site. Create our flow, then our flow, we just need to specify that, and then instead of being the trigger for starting it, just needs to be a request when an HTTP request is received, and we are passing in this information. Okay, this is what we're telling it where we're going to, what we plan on receiving. So we plan on telling it we're going to receive an event and a product. If we go back and look at our site script, on our trigger flow option, we have those same parameters. So we can pass the information across from our script to the flow. And I see Michael.
Yep, I popped up. I got a question from our friend Mike Saunders.
Sweet.
Scripting is off on modern sites. Are you advocating turning it on and leaving it on?
Advocating? No. I'm just saying if you're going to try applying a Pnp provisioning template where you're uploading a new page, it needs to be on during that time frame. So as part of your Azure function, you can connect to the site, turn it on, apply your template, and then turn it back off again. For the most part, in modern sites, we don't need that functionality. But there is a limitation based off of SharePoint that causes some problems with provisioning. So I wouldn't say we definitely need to turn it on all of them, but the problem is even if you turned on that option in your tenant, modern sites ignores it until you manually go and turn it on for that particular site collection. So if you need it temporarily, I would say go ahead and turn it on and then go ahead and shut it back off again. And you won't have any effects if all you're doing is just uploading a new page. If you're trying to do more script and those sort of things, you may want to leave it on. But for the most part, this is only needed if you're going to be uploading a new ASPX page to a site. Hopefully that answers the question. Carry on. So once we have our flow, within our flow, we can now say, okay, we're going to put a message in the queue, and then we create our provisioning template. This particular one just runs an app customizer, which is going to load a footer onto the page. in their example, we create our Azure function. Now, one of the cool things is with the Azure function, granted this functionality is still, last time I checked, in preview, we can just create a PowerShell script. And then, so basically we have a queue trigger with a PowerShell running of it, because we can do with our Azure functions, we can, as we talked about before, we can do C#, JavaScript, application, full application, exe, batch files, and PowerShell. So with that, but we do need to do an extra step. We need to be able to export the patterns and practices SharePoint online module. Because this is running in a serverless environment, we need to make sure that we have the code and libraries available to us. So if we export this module, it'll give us a path, and then we need to go into our Azure function and go upload that particular file. Okay, we'll have to build the structure, and it gives us the files that we need. We go upload it, and then we're off and running. We can code to our heart's content, and we're not restricted to just the provisioning engine. We can do anything that we want with PowerShell. We could probably even take the same approach and connect to the SharePoint Online Management shell and load it in as part of our Azure function. The options are pretty open. As long as we can get what we need into PowerShell, we're good. Once we have our Azure function, we're off and running. Then we're back to creating our site design like we saw before. We have our script that just has our trigger flow. We create our design, and we're off and running. And it'll go out and apply it. So, like I said, I tested it on a few different sites, and the biggest thing is, yeah, you just have to make sure you go in and enable that custom script, or if you're going to upload a page. The rest of it, if you're just going to be, you could even deploy a list and those sort of things with the provisioning template, then you don't need custom scripts. And that's it. That's site scripts. One of the cool things about it is fairly simple. We have our site design and we have our site scripts. And then the scripts are just a set of actions. So not a whole lot that we need to be concerned with. The biggest areas that I see that there's a lack, and I'm hoping they come up with something to fix it sometime soon, is the fact that at the moment, if somebody wants to create a site design and a site script, they have to be, I'd say, comfortable at least with some coding practices, because we're going to be dealing with JavaScript files, essentially. We have our JSON file that has to be manually set up. Granted, you could copy and paste and go out and create it, but then you got to run it through PowerShell. So I'm hoping Microsoft fixes that sometime, so we have some cool options. So the admins, or maybe not even a full admin, but site collection admin, can go and add some of those, but I don't know that we'll get the site collection admin. And that's it. And we're off and running. All right, and switch back over here. Hopefully it doesn't, yep, it switched on me. Swap. All right, are there any questions?
Yes, there are. It's not necessarily related to what you. It's the question I've got is not necessarily related to exactly what you were talking about, or the first one is. I've got a couple. So literally says, not related to what Ryan is presenting right now, but does templating also involve adding default set of web parts to a page? I know currently when adding a site, either Comms or Teams, they have default web parts that show up on the new page. That is from Canal.
Yes, so that's one of the things that with the, I know for sure with the patterns and practices, we can add some, they have scripts that we can add in that allow us to be able to add web parts to a page. The easiest approach, like I said, is being able just to take an existing page, configure it, set it all up, pull off a template of it through patterns and practices, and then reapply it. That's the easiest approach. But yeah, there are plenty of ways that we can go in and you manipulate to say, okay, as part of our site design, these are the default setup, default web parts for our different pages. So not just our home page, but we can do a bunch of different configurations as well. So yes, definitely an option.
Wonderful, thank you. And then another question from our friend Mike Saunders. Any thoughts on including a SharePoint framework extension to add global navigation?
Yeah, definitely an option. The issue you're going to run into, though, is the site script itself does not have that as an option. We can do SharePoint framework extensions for field customizers on a list, But at the moment, we don't have an option to be able to add in any other type of extensions. But with the SharePoint framework, and as I mentioned, with that, the documentation Microsoft has out there, they actually show you how to, their example uses the Pnp provisioning to apply a footer to the bottom of the site. So in theory, you could do the same thing, but just instead of the placeholder being at the bottom, you say you want the global header. So it is possible, yes, as well. But like I said, the cool part about it is the flow trigger that we can do as an action gives us all sorts of functionality and a lot of cool things that we can go out and do.
Awesome, awesome. And that is the 2 questions I got. So back to you, man.
Oh, sweet. All right, so if that's all the questions we've got, that is the extent of it. Like I said, it's a little, we're going a little short today. I apologize for that, but it's, like I said, it's super simple. But the coolness about this is it allows us to be able to get closer to what we've had in classic setups, where we can specify the different templates, the lists that need to be created. But the nice part about this is all using client-side methodologies. We don't have to rely on server-side code to be able to provision and deploy these things now. It's all done client-side. And so it's pretty flexible and pretty fast. So we have those options. And like I said, the biggest thing, I was pretty stoked when they were showing, I had a demo with Vesa at Ignite this last year where you showed me the flow trigger that they're doing for site design. I was like, okay, this is cool, because that gives us the extension point. If we need server-side code to be able to program something, we can kick it off an Azure function. If we need to go add in information, so we say we have an internal system, we have a hybrid scenario, we need to know when different sites are created and know what design they're in, we have that option. We can key that information back into our on-premises environments, and we can keep track of it. We have the approvals. We can essentially, the sky's the limit. Whatever you can imagine, that's what we can do. And this is, I am really glad they put that one in there. So the other one's okay, yeah, being able to create a list, add some basic stuff. Yeah, I think it's just kind of, I think that's the first step. I'm pretty sure Microsoft's going to add more actions that we can perform, but this is just a first starting point. And then with the flow trigger, we can actually do some other things until they get some more stuff out of the box. So really cool stuff. And with that, like I said, that's all I've got. So I'll hand back over to Mike, and thank you everybody for watching.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for all this. This is great. Had a couple little things come in, mostly related around the presentation in general, but this is good stuff for everybody to hear. So starting with from our friend Joe McKee, he asked, well, a copy of the presentation you shared today. Oh, can we get a copy of the presentation you shared today for reference? And this might tie into what someone else is asking as well. Our friend Paisley Gray is asking if there's going to be a recording. There will be a recording of this. It will be out early next week. If there's anything Ryan is able to share, such as some of the slides that he shared and something like that, I'll make sure that's a part of it. But generally, yes, we will have a recording at least out there for anybody to go back, check it out. This was a lot of really great information, so we want to make sure you guys have access to that. And there you go. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to throw them out there. Ryan loves questions. It might be his favorite thing of all time. Is to ask questions. Also ask questions because we want to make him come back on screen and see the cool thing he's got behind him while he talks. It's a lot of fun. As you guys probably know, Eric Overfield's our usual guy who he's our president and co-founder here at Pixel Mill. Eric, you're also real big into this kind of stuff. Did you have any thoughts you wanted to add on?
Yeah, but not really add. Maybe I can get into the discussion while we're waiting for other questions to pop in.
Sure.
The biggest concern I see, I guess I see two, Ryan, and I'm not just trying to set you up here. It's just I want your opinions on this too. Installing these need to be done via PowerShell, really with a tenant admin. I get it why it needs to happen, but that seems frustrating and it might be limiting for people. And the second thing I have is it's JSON. I mean, this is like a DevOps IT pro can't do this. This is a dev thing, isn't it? Sure seems heavy dev, like not easy.
Yeah, that's my concern. Like, I hope Microsoft comes in with a designer that allows us to be able to do that.
SharePoint designer?
No. Sort of designer. If the community will probably come out with something. I know when it came to the customs column formatting.
Yep.
There was a need, and so the community came out with it. So I'm envisioning that at least to be able to generate the JSON file. That probably is going to get simpler, but I don't know if Microsoft's going to change the ability that they have to be an admin. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of if you're talking like a full DevOps person, I'm sure they're probably going to be okay with monkeying with a JSON file. A lot of their configuration scripts anymore are common that way. But yeah, it's not going to be something that a power user or a citizen developer is going to be able to do. They're going to have to work with their internal IT organization to be able to get these deployed and set up. It's not going to be, hey, I've got this new site design, I want to go push it out. I think Microsoft is going to stick with a more centralized deployment mechanism for these type of functionalities.
Okay. In the beginning,
to do it, but because even then, admins would be easier to deploy it out through an interface. But then again, at least we have PowerShell, so they can script it and do some continuous deployment and all that sort of stuff. Go DevOps.
In the beginning, our good friend Greg Frick asked the question. He brought up kind of like Pnp PowerShell and stuff. More around tenant admin, but we've had Pnp provisioning for PowerShell provisioning, core provisioning for a couple of years now. It's gotten solid. What's your take on like why? What's the value of site designs combined with Pnp provisioning, or like when might we use one or the other, or did we need site designs, or what's a best practice that you might think about the combination between site designs and Pnp provisioning?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think for me, I love the Pnp provisioning engine. I've been using it since they came out with it years ago. I had a client where we implemented it, very first version, still missing a lot of things, as in one of them was navigation wasn't included back then as part of the template. So over the years, it has gotten really good. And like I said, it is, for the most part, it's pretty solid. Did we need site designs? If they would have given us an easy way of being able to call a Pnp provisioning PowerShell script, for example, to be able to apply it, I don't know that we would have needed full site designs, but it does allow us to get some of those easier actions, because the one thing that we don't have, if you run a Pnp provisioning template as part of a site design and script, you don't get any of the status messages that you get. So granted, it's all just warm fuzzies for the users that something's actually happening. All the actions that we define in our site script, they'll get a status, say, okay, this one's done, this one's done, this one's done. Now, if we queue out to a flow, we have no more status. The user has no indication that something's still going on. So it's anything that my best practice I would probably suggest is anything that you can do inside an actual site script, I would suggest that you do it there. That way your user's going to get a better experience. The user experience is going to be much better that way. And then fall back to the Pnp provisioning template and the provisioning engine for anything that you need more advanced that it can't do. But I would probably also suggest, as part of the description of what you're applying there, your name as part of your script, that action, you need to tell them, say, hey, this is going to run in the background. Check your site for these things to be deployed, but it's one of those things, it's not just going to show up and say, whoo, we have everything done. They're not going to get anything other than say, okay, it's been kicked off. If they had native integration to be able to launch a Pnp provisioning template as an actual action from the site script, that would be cool, because then we can get some feedback and get some status. But yeah, I'd say whatever you can, put it in the script, and then use the provisioning template for the more advanced scenarios.
Cool. I saw a while back when this was being proposed that one thought was use site designs only for the UI. So basically, if you go to a new site, you could get your site design there, because with Pnp provisioning you can't do that, and then basically have a blank site design that just triggered flow. I like your potential counter argument, which is if you do that, you get no status on how that flow is going. Whereas if you did a lot of it as much as possible in site designs and then triggered flow only for the last pieces, you give a better UI. I like that. I think that's an important consideration for people who see it as, oh, let's just use site designs for the UI creation piece.
Yeah, and the other thing you're going to run into, though, is the site scripts themselves. Your site design can have a maximum, as we talked earlier, maximum of 30 actions. So there may be a point, if you're doing a really complex template, for lack of a better word, of site design, you may still have to key out to Pnp provisioning to be able to do all of it, because you're just not going to be able to do it all through one site design with those 30 actions.
Okay. But I'll let you kind of talk more about hub sites here. My question is, so I'll let you go into hub sites, but a follow-up question would then be, are we going to be able to use site designs to create hub sites as well?
At the moment, I don't believe so. I know for anybody that missed the announcement on Microsoft, they released yesterday that the hub sites are starting to be deployed to targeted release, what used to be known as first release, tenants. So it's starting to roll out now. One of the things they have in their documentation is we can add our site to a hub, but I don't think that we're going to be able to get an option to be able to create a hub, because even if you look at the interface with a hub site, there is no way to go in and say, okay, I want to create a hub. At the moment, if you want to create a hub, it's done through PowerShell. You have an existing site and say, okay, this site is going to be the hub, and then other sites can now come in and join it. So I don't know that unless they give us a UI for creating a hub, which they may not, because a hub is just going to be a communication site or a team site, and then we just apply the hub functionality to it. I don't know that we're going to be able to get a site design on a full hub, but they have said that the hubs that we can apply, I don't know if it's released yet or as part of this release, but they're saying that we can do the site designs and site scripts, at least they're planning on it, with a hub site. So if we add a site to a hub, the plan is eventually it'll also kick off the scripts that are also associated with that hub if we so desire. When we'll get that, I don't know, but I know that's one of the things they have said they're working on.
Cool. Michael, before that last question I just saw, I think is a good one. Let me just kind of reiterate that hub. So hubs just came out for people that don't know about them. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, there's a Ask Me Anything over on Tech Communities with Microsoft. I think it's Melissa Torres, I think, is running that. If you want to learn more about hubs and what you can do with them in SharePoint Online, I do highly recommend you check that out. I'm going to go ahead and tweet out the link. I think I put it in the chat window an hour ago, but I'll tweet it out again. So at Eric Overfield, you'll see a tweet out in a few minutes.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, sir. So another little question, kind of a rant, but kind of a question came in from our friend Joe McKee. It seems that a number of Microsoft's features for SharePoint Online at an enterprise level with features are half-baked. Things are definitely getting better, but are the newer features, like today's topic, further along in the development than things a year or two ago?
That is a good question. I know there's been a lot of groanings and mumblings about things being, for more politically correct term, half-baked. I know in talks with Microsoft and with the product team, their goal is, with the new cadence they're going with the modern stuff where they can release things more frequently, they're going with a more agile approach of giving us a MVP, minimum viable product. So we'll have functionality, but it's not going to be the fully baked functionality that we had when Microsoft had 3 years to bake it. Right now, they release it, and they're off and running. The site designs, from what I've seen, are pretty solid. Like I said, that one, as we're doing the demo, the one thing where it didn't update, that's the first time I've ever seen it do that. But Microsoft, at least they've been working on this particular functionality. I think they demoed it in their May event last year, at least showing that this is what they're working on. And then they've been working on it, and they had some demos with product group people at Ignite. So it's at least been something they've been working on. And from what I've seen, it's pretty solid. Like you saw, even though the UI didn't update, everything still fired. Everything happened, it's just the UI got confused some way. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I know Microsoft is making an approach to be able to make it seem less like it's half-baked. But if we look at it, even with site designs, honestly, it's half-baked. And the large part of that is the only way we can create these at the moment is through PowerShell. If we wanted a fully refined product, Microsoft would have to give us more UIs and those sort of things. So at the moment, I'm glad that we're actually getting this functionality instead of having to wait 3 years. Because the old approach, that's what we would have had to wait for. So now we have it. Yeah, we have a few little nuances, some hoops we have to jump through, but at least we have the functionality instead of having to wait forever to get it. Especially with these modern sites, I'm glad they're giving us this templating ability, because I've had quite a few clients that say, hey, we want to do some custom branding on our sites. With modern, we had no option. We had to keep them classic. At least now this way, we have a way to say, okay, we can give you a template that they can use on their own without having to require IT to go through all manual configuration and everything. So yeah, there is that sense that things are half-baked, but we are getting the functionality sooner. So it's kind of a juggling game. Do we want it sooner, or do we want it fully baked? And I think I like Microsoft's approach that they're giving it to us earlier. And then that way we can work through and say, okay, yeah, this is what we need.
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's an important question that's completely relevant, and my take on it is that very much like what you just said, Ryan, I can be echo chamber here. I think it's better that they release things quicker with an MVP. Also, I think they need more input as to what the feature is supposed to do. They've got an idea, but they want to see it in the real world, and then they change it. And I think Comm Sites is a pretty good example. They got a product out. It is useful. People like it, and I fully expect them to continue to evolve it. And I would rather not wait 3 years for a whole new set of things. I like this piecemeal stuff come out as quick as they can. I think this next year we're going to see a lot of change, a lot of stuff. But on the flip side, it's extremely challenging for all of our clients, for sure. I think, Ryan, you're seeing the same thing. It's extremely challenging to figure out what to do now. And I think that the analysis of your organization and what is it to do, taking the technology today and utilizing as best you can using Microsoft's practices so that you can adjust when they release new things, is going to be the strategy for the foreseeable future. As a quick example on hub sites are going out to targeted release. They started, I think, today or yesterday or something. They're going to probably take a week, but they're turned off by default. So you're going to have to actively go on and turn them on and choose you're going to use them. And we're seeing that somewhat moving forward now, that more features are turned off by default. Of course, that wasn't the case 6 months ago. We just were thrown new lists and libraries, and we had to turn that off instead of it was automatically turned on for us. So we might see things turned on or off automatically for us. Who knows? But I think we just I hate the cliche of we're in a time of change. We're always in a time of change. It is still a time of change. I think if you embrace it more as an organization and you have the approach that we will continue to evolve the solution, you'll get more sophisticated communication and collaboration as IT pros and DevOps. It will help you because you'll have less chance of a shadow IT. Microsoft is attempting to give you the products and solutions. Your organization is looking for to go to the Oxes of the world, to go into the Slacks of the world, and they're trying to give you those features now. So you want to evolve with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's in our current role and with the current climate, we need to be comfortable with change. Change is a given. If we don't like it, well, we're kind of in the wrong field. I know, just not to steal your thunder, Michael, but we got a comment by Joe there that's stressing out IT directors. And I totally things are changing, but like Eric mentioned, the nice part is they're giving us the option now instead of just forcing it down on us. It's kind of okay. Well, we'll disable it by default, or at least so it's not as visible, and then the organization can decide, okay, do we want to turn this on? Do we want to enable this functionality?
I saw a great debate a couple weeks ago between the business analysis of the world, the end users advocates of the world, and the IT pro advocates of the world, going at this question of should you allow users to be able to do whatever they want, or should you completely rail them in? And I think that IT directors are seeing this issue. They want to rail people in. They want to control the environment because they know if they don't, they're going to have shadow IT. They're going to have 10,000 site collections that have the word test in it. It's just going to be a madhouse that you can't contain, and then you're going to get legal holds, and you won't be able to control that, and it's scary. And should we go out with a whole new system with comms and team sites and groups and not even consider hubs? And we'll fake a hub on our own, and then we'll get a hub in a month from now. Well, if we need the solution today, you need to work with the tools you have today, but planning for the known and unknown future. When hubs come out and they're fully baked, maybe you should adopt them in 6 months, but don't adopt them now because it's too quick. Let them go through V2, V3. And in the meantime, have a structure that can not use hub sites. But if you go full custom, you're going to really hurt yourself, right? Or if you lock yourself in with a solution from an ISV, you might need to be careful that are they going to be able to evolve with you? Will the product you've decided to be able to evolve with you? You went out and hired 10 devs, or you've got a big dev team and you do all this custom code over in Azure and use a web app instead of Azure Functions, and then Microsoft says, hey, you know, the best way to do it is using Azure Functions now because we've got this hook. Did you just blow 10,000 hours of time trying to shoehorn something in now without consideration of what Microsoft is saying, such as don't do heavy customization? Don't break branding. Don't put CSS on top of a comm site. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, you gave me a soapbox. You gave Ryan a soapbox.
You've seen it here live, folks.
Eric and I have had these discussions before. It's one of those discussions that goes on a lot in a lot of communities and those sort of things, especially with MVPs and all that weird. Do we do this customization? Like with our customers, we have to say, okay, how far do we go with what we have now based off of what we're going to get? A lot of times for us, it's the driver is what the customer wants and how soon they want it. We know, okay, hub sites are coming out. Is that going to be out soon enough for them, or they want it sooner? So yeah, it's a lot of discussions going on along those lines.
Yeah. I see it as like Microsoft is too slow to things and then they're too fast, and it's the same thing at the same time. I mean, if you think about where we've been since 2016 came out, we're 2.5 years, 2019 is already coming out. If you really look back over the last year, we've had a lot of changes in the SharePoint Online Office 365 world, a lot of changes that are huge, but we still want more. So we're getting used to this very rapid pace of change, but we want the full baked product. I mean, I understand Joe's the issue that he's proposing here, which is like it's half baked. It's not necessarily it's half baked. I mean, I think that they're making sure that hubs, in order for hubs to go into production, they'll be solid for what they deliver. But you're going to want 10 more things. You're going to want you want nested hubs. You can't do nested hubs. I want site designs that provide me whatever it is that I need. And you're going to feel like, why didn't you think of this, Microsoft? Well, they did, but they do only have limited resources, and they are listening. I think that like through tech communities, through user voice, they're listening to what people are saying, and they are attempting to make things go quicker. They can only move so fast. I wish they had 300 people over on the product group for SharePoint, but they don't. It's a small, talented team.
Yeah, there you go.
Ditto.
This is an excellent time to throw out there that if anybody has any more questions about this when the webinar is done, feel free to reach out to us at PixelMillTeam on Twitter, or check us out, pixelmill.com. Or you can also check out Ryan, who right now is above me, according to my screen. You can find him, I believe, at SharePoint Night on Twitter, and it's also SharePointNight.com. Is that correct, Ryan? That's your site?
Yep. Yeah, that'll redirect to RyanSchouten.com, but it's easier to remember SharePoint Night than how to spell my last name. Hence, that's where the night came from.
There you go. There you go. All right, ladies and gents. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for all the amazing questions that came in. Thank you, Ryan, for your amazing session today. Such great information. Thank you, Eric, for guest starring in this session today, for basically letting us put you on the spot and then giving us a lot of great
this cameo.
Yeah, thank you for your cameo. You guys got a special treat today. A couple MVPs just shooting the breeze about a topic they both love. There you go. So thank you, everyone. If you have any further questions, like I said, reach out to us at PixelMillTeam on Twitter. Pixelmill.com is our website. Like I said, at SharePoint Night for Ryan, or SharePointNight.com. Feel free to reach out. We always love answering your questions and helping in any way that we can. Next month's webinar is going to be a fun one. We're going to have Erica Telly is going to be joining us. She's a really great member of the SharePoint community. We're still kind of deciding what the topic's going to be. We're kind of figuring out some of the details of it, but it's going to be a really good one. I can't wait to share with you guys. And with that, we'll let you go. Have a great Thursday leading into hopefully an even better weekend, and we will see you guys next month. Have a great day.
Bye, all.